Actually, we all know that amidst this COVID-19 pandemic, internet, if without internet, things would have been worse. But we have seen technology and digitalization as a very important enabler, and that has enhanced life during this COVID-19. So we need to thank GIZ and Senate for being part of this revolution of making sure that life and business is enhanced in East Africa. So digital technology, of course, digital technologies are reducing costs doing business, where we've seen, for example, in the emerging sectors such as delivery of products have been enhanced by use of digitalization tools that have been developed by some private sector organizations in partnership with development partners such as GIZ. So East African Business Council is committed to partnering with the governments of East Africa partner states and most importantly, research organization and academia to drive the digital agenda to leverage opportunities available. But also we look forward to a lot of support from GIZ and other partners to ensure that the region is kept abreast of the digital tools to enhance not only production, but also connect with the global markets. We're entering into the CFTA, AFCFTA, and without digitalization, it will be very difficult to trade with the rest of the world. So we need to get our companies ready to cope with the new developments in the digital space, to ensure that we fit well within partnerships and trading connectivity with not only the continent but the rest of the global markets. So supporting such initiatives is very important, and we look forward to more academia research to be produced to ensure that digitalization is the one that is driving the agenda of trade in East Africa. So we thank you so much, GIZ Senate, for this initiative, and we look forward to more partnership going forward to ensure that digitalization is the champion of trade. Thank you so much. With those few remarks, I wish to give back my extend appreciation once more to GIZ, and we look forward to more partnerships. And I thank you for organizing this very important webinar, and we look forward to better deliberations. Thank you so much. Have a very good webinar.
Thank you very much, Geoffrey, for these very kind words, and thank you very much indeed also the East African Business Council for co-organizing and supporting and working together on this important event. I would like to welcome all guests in this webinar to the ICT4Business Webinar, Commercialization of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, How to Generate Value for Businesses from Digitalization. That is the question we wanted to discuss, and we hope is of interest and in need for you, your members, in case you are here from an industry organization or any other of your partners. I would like to show you on the next slide, please. First, a few housekeeping rules for this webinar. As usual, kindly mute your microphone and also switch off your video when you're not speaking. Please respect the panelists' views, contribute to our meeting goals, stay on point and time in your deliberations and comments. Focus on the topic is especially in these times when we're coming to virtually very important. Please direct your questions you have during the presentation later on, as well as the panel discussion, into the chat room of this MS Teams meeting room. Also, kindly introduce yourself by briefly stating your name, organization, as well as where you are joining us from which country. I would also like to repeat what Matthias from Startup Africa has just informed you about. Maybe when you came in later, you could not hear this yet. In the chat, you will find a link and a password to the interactive feedback tool, Wisely. There is a poll and a survey in Wisely that we kindly ask you to click on the link, log in with the password, and then answer the question on where you're joining us from, as well as what organization type you belong to. The results of this question and also further questions will be shown and introduced to you by the consultant, by Startup Africa in the presentation. So with maybe a few brief remarks as well from GIZ before, sorry, that's of course the program. Thank you very much, Patrick. We do have a very nice program prepared for you that will start or is starting already with the welcoming remarks. There is the presentation of the study on the EAC innovation ecosystem in higher education that will be presented by the consultant, as well as the following panel discussion. And we are very happy to say that we will have 5 very distinguished experts from all over the region that will discuss this topic with us, which have been already mentioned by EABC. These are Dr. Amos Nungu, the Director General of the Tanzania Commission for Science and Technology. You can also see them here on the slides. Paul Isaac, the Chief Executive Officer, CEO from Kira Motors. Martha Cheruto, the Deputy CEO from KEPSA. Dr. Fidele, Vice Chancellor of the University of Technology and Arts in Byumba. And I hope I did not forget anyone, of course, also the moderator from Startup Africa, Sophie, who will guide you later through the panel discussion. So very briefly, also a few words from GIZ before we get into the presentation. The importance and the benefits of digitalization have been very well and comprehensively explained and laid out by EABC. So I would just like to put a little bit into the context of what we and Senate ADA is doing to support it. So to support especially digital skills and digital innovation in the EAC to achieve this important and contribute to competitiveness and regional economic development, the German government has commissioned GIZ to support the East African community through the Center of Excellence for ICT in East Africa, or Senate ADA, as a project that is representing a regional innovation hub for digital skills and innovation. Senate ADA is offering a master's program, a highly competitive international master's program in embedded and mobile systems. This is offered at the Nelson Mandela African Institution for Science and Technology in Arusha, Tanzania, as well as short course trainings for different target groups, different audiences, like right now a digital skills accelerator for unemployed graduates, as well as for ICT specialists, students and lecturers, ICT staff at universities. As the demand side for our design, for our project is most important, we have different platforms and formats in order to exchange regularly with private sector, academia, civil society, and public sector. The ICT4Business is a platform together with East African Business Council that the Senate ADA project is using to get to engage, especially with companies. We had meetings and events throughout the past 2 years throughout the East African community. And for especially the issue or the topic of the innovation ecosystem, GIZ for the Senate ADA project had commissioned Startup Africa to present and prepare a study on the digital ecosystem in the East African community. And without further ado, this is actually where I would like to hand over for the presentation to Startup Africa and the consultant, one of their consultants, Matthias Möbius, who's now presenting the results of assembly, and presenting the results of the study. I hope you had very good discussions and an interesting meeting.
Nice. Welcome, distinguished guests. Thank you very much, Simon. And thank you very much also to Senate and all the distinguished partners, because I think the topic that we're discussing today is a very, very important one. First, before I jump into the presentation and summary of the work that we've been doing, I want to again guide the attention towards why Assembly. We've just had very few responses yet, so go to the link and also fill us in where you're diving in from and which of the partners or which of the sectors you're part of. That will help to gear the conversation also into the most important. This study that we were commissioned to do is about the East Africa digital entrepreneurship ecosystem in higher education. So it's about the universities. We did a lot of research. We talked to a lot of people there. It is about digital entrepreneurship in specific, and it takes a systemic approach. It's also important that we really focus on all 6 East African community countries, and we try to give them an equal say in this study, despite the big differences, of course, that we have to have in mind as I'm presenting the results of this study. What I personally think is important to achieve with this short presentation, because in the short time we can do only so and so much, is to inspire you from within the organization you are looking at this topic, to think about what your role is and what your contribution is to build this important digital entrepreneurship ecosystem together. It's a system. That means it requires a multitude of actors. It requires a multitude of actions. So we all have to come together. And each of us has to take this role on seriously to build the best ecosystem that we can be building. So there is no way we can leave our responsibility and push it to other partners or players or organizations. Everyone has to think, how can we contribute to building a better ecosystem across the East African community? We have done a range of activities during this research. Desk research, we've gone very deep. A lot of sources, papers from African authors, reports, and so on. We have analyzed case studies, especially by a really recommendable book named Making Futures by Sangu Dele, which talks about case studies about African entrepreneurs from all over the continent and how they made it, about their background. So it's a very, very dense description of important narratives that help us to build our ecosystem. We have conducted semi-structured interviews. So we have interviewed people from all 6 countries in the East African community, some of them here in this webinar today, which is just amazing. 150 pages of transcribed interviews came out of this. We've conducted a survey with 11 questions. A lot of data points came out of it. I can only touch on all these things here very briefly. So this is a teaser for a study that will be shared. So I urge you to and to really take this in and see what your role is and what you can do. What I will be doing is I will share with a fast pace the most important and biggest recommendations, and then inspire a discussion about these recommendations. So we will have a slot for asking questions. And I want to note, if you have further questions that can't be answered due to the time, please post them in the chat. And I will also share my email address so we can get in touch later, because really it's about taking action. And that's what I think is the most important thing we should all take away from here. A very brief remark, as we will have questions to share and as we will have another live voting, I urge you to, wherever you see the icon that corresponds to the sector you work in, take notes. If you feel this certain recommendation is something you should have in mind and you should ponder further on. So please be very attentive as I'm just jumping in right now, and we'll run through the recommendations and give them the focus that they need. First of all, 6 central narratives emerged from the research that we did. The first one is tech is the future. That was something I heard so much in the interviews that we conducted. So let's explore it very shortly further. There have been happening big exits. Some of you have heard of the exit of Bionic that has happened years ago, a fintech company that was founded in Uganda by a Ugandan that was sold to MFS Africa. Paystack just very recently exited for 200 million, was sold to Stripe, which is a Silicon Valley startup. So what we are seeing is the future is already here. And that's a very important thing to have in mind. Then what we found in our survey is that 59% of participants said you cannot learn, and this was how the question was phrased, you cannot learn the necessary skills to start a digital enterprise at the university. 59% said so in the survey that we conducted, which means the future is here, tech is the future, but we need to do an even better job than we're already doing in providing the skills that are necessary to do so. The next narrative is that heroes, game changers, and women in tech are needed. This is quite obvious if you think about what will inspire young innovators to be the next founders that will bring our digital entrepreneurship ecosystem forward. We need role models to awake the belief that something is possible. Students must believe that it's possible for them to be the next innovators. For this, we need these role models. The next one is universities need to provide the relevant skills. This is framed in this way as I'm working a lot with, we have partnerships, innovation partnerships with 10 universities in Uganda, and something that lecturers, but students always say is there's a lot of theory, there's a lot of exams and papers. So the question is, how can we use more innovative teaching and also practice-oriented teaching? 71% of the participants of the survey said they do not believe that universities provide the skills needed to start a digital enterprise. 71% did not believe that. So we have started. We are on the way, but we need to do a much better effort. 53% say that the skills, that lecturers do not have the skills needed to guide a student to start a digital enterprise. 53%. The next one is about mindset change and putting Africa on the map. One thing is jobs are scarce, right? So we need to look at entrepreneurship as a viable alternative. And that goes very deep. That goes into families, into communities, into the social circles that entrepreneurs would swim in. Because if they get challenges, if they face challenges to actually start a company, and with the young entrepreneurs I'm working with, they feel like they shouldn't tell their family too much about what they are doing. This is a challenge. So some level of mindset shift is needed. Then social entrepreneurship was a motive that we've seen quite a bit, because a narrative is tech and so on is not good by itself. It needs still to solve the problems that are there in the local communities. And then lastly, local structures and SMEs are relevant. And I think this is pretty clear. We need the local body of experience and structures to actually guide young entrepreneurs. So I will go through recommendations now for each of these narratives. Tech is the future. Create and fund digital entrepreneurship competitions and challenges, because they show students, hey, I can really become successful if I start a digital venture, a digital enterprise. They know, hey, I can win a small award. That might bring me somewhere. It's the first small step that makes things possible. Now, again, focus to the right side. You will always see who is most required to make this happen. The private sector here has to fund it. The hubs know how to run such innovation programs. And the public sector also has the means to do so, and to do so, for example, also on a more regional or national level. Hubs in the private sector can seldomly do that. So we need all these actors. The next one is providing the knowledge and skills that students lack the most. These 3 items were the top ranked in the survey that we conducted. Digital business models, the technical skills, meaning hardware and software skills, and market knowledge for digital products is missing. These are the core things we really need to figure out and that students need to learn. Knowledge is key to be able to start and to be able to evaluate the risk and potential of ideas that students might have. The skills are needed for them to actually make it happen. The next one is integrate varied and tailor-made internships into the curricula. We work with universities on innovation programs. One very important thing is practical experience. There are few, what I usually call practical spaces of learning. So where can a student start organizing an event, really work on a project? There is not many spaces where this can happen. Internships are a prime opportunity for this. Of course, we need the private sector. For them to be integrated in the curriculum, we need the legislators, so we need the public sector, as well as academia making this happen. There are universities that do a great job already on this, but we need to become better, so practical skills are fostered much more. Then here's game changers and women in tech are needed. We need to create and fund platforms at university to showcase results, right? We need these narratives out there. Hey, we can make it happen. For this, we need communication platforms. We need all kinds of nodes of connection to instill this narrative and to really show it is possible. The next point is create and fund women-only networks, meetings, competitions, institutions, equal pay, equal rights initiatives. A huge aspect, if we have time, I can shortly touch on it, is that women are neglected also in terms of the perception of different players of, for example, if they are facing hardship in their day-to-day life. So we found out that people in the university context, that's administrators, lecturers, students, but also in corporate context and so on, have a much lower perception of the hardship that women face with regards to starting a company, as opposed to what women feel themselves. So there is a gap. So we need women-only solutions to provide the safe spaces that are needed to really catalyze women entrepreneurship. Another one is we need to connect to various media. Media are important because they are really an agent that can catalyze and really bring narratives out there in the big. We need awards. We need to award titles and honors. We need competition prizes, certificates of training, all these kinds of things that show someone, hey, I can make it happen. Universities need to provide the relevant skills. We did a lot of research on methodologies of how to do great entrepreneurship training and education. The most important one was project-oriented teaching, such as setting up a student enterprise at university. We do this in Uganda at 10 universities. Many companies have been started through this, and it is another of these practical spaces of learning. This is crucial to gain experience. The next one is to integrate entrepreneurship hubs. This was ranked very highly by students as the #1 favorite option from the student body. So we need the entrepreneurship hubs as they are a trusted partner to provide quality entrepreneurship education. And then practice-oriented teaching, meaning, for example, someone from the private sector. If you're from the private sector, I bet you know so many things and have so many experiences that students could benefit from. What about you are part of teaching entrepreneurship? You can pass on. I get a lot of background noise right now. It would be great if you could mute yourselves. Thank you. So if you're from the private sector, it would be so beneficial for students if you disseminate this experience inside of classrooms to bring the practice into the university. And use the top-ranked interventions to impact the success of student ventures. Top-ranked interventions from our surveys were curriculum integration of entrepreneurship trainings. Again, here we need the legislator. We from Startup, we have been in touch with the Council of Higher Education, but we have not gotten through to see how we can bring the thousands of hours of entrepreneurship content creation that we have worked on into the curricula. How we can bring all the knowledge that we have gathered into the university system, to embed it into the real system and not only have it as it is right now, in our case, as certificate programs. So we need the legislators here. The next one is mentorship through successful local entrepreneurs. Again, making the connection between companies and entrepreneurs and the student bodies, especially those students that have started and are on this journey to making something happen, something big, but they need to tap into this wealth of experience that is already there. So we need to make these meaningful connections. Another one is practical coding courses, because hard skills, software and hardware skills, are so needed to build the technology future for East Africa. The next one is tandem teaching modules, lecturers with entrepreneurs. We need the legislators again for such innovative teaching formats, but these things are necessary. Universities can't look at themselves as silos and be, and I know there's a lot happening, but we need to really foster this connection between academia, the private sector, hubs, and so on. Why not doing it together? Learn from each other. Take the best things from each side. A lecturer knows how to handle their students. An entrepreneur or business person has the experience. Let's bring them together. The next one is integrate experiential learning into the curricula. Let's invite entrepreneurs onto campus. Let's do field trips to startups and have discussions. Field trips to small and medium-sized enterprises, to corporates. Let's have the students get out of the university and understand the life after university, how it looks like, what are the relevant things to look at, what do they have to focus on learning right now so they can really make a contribution and build a career. The next one is integrate local hubs into entrepreneurship. Okay, I think someone just hello? Just a short feedback. Am I live again? I had some hiccups with network.
Yes, you're live and we can see the presentation.
Okay, cool. I had some network hiccups or something at least kicked me out of Teams. I'm sorry for this. So again, where were we? Apologies. So the next point are interdisciplinary courses. Here we have the academia mainly. So what we see is that there are entrepreneurship activities happening at universities, but often they are purely for business students. But for example, if we're talking digital entrepreneurship, we need to integrate the other faculties, the science faculties, the technology faculties, the ICT faculties, and so on. So we need interdisciplinarity. So all the deans out there, especially from the entrepreneurship faculties, but also from the other ones, you should set up a meeting, meet and see how you can bring the efforts together. Then create and fund a student-run platform for the student body at university. So we had a hard time since 2017 to penetrate into the universities. It worked out very well, but a huge thing that we learned is one needs to tap into the student body. Not only into university management, but the students can be engaged and students can run entrepreneurial activities. They can be the ones to make entrepreneurship at the campus to flourish and to be visible. They can host events, they can invite speakers, all these kinds of things. So moderating student-run platforms is a key asset to really integrate entrepreneurship into the university ecosystem. What we have done at Startup, for example, is we have started to build startup entrepreneurship clubs, where we guide students to build clubs at universities. We give them different tools and templates for events, so that they can run activities on campus, can build a movement at the universities, excite other students, and make the topic of entrepreneurship big. Then mindset change and putting Africa on the map. We need to create entrepreneurial mindset courses. So one idea that we do at Startup is we have design thinking challenges, for example, in our programs. One could be that we have in the very first session, very first workshop where students join our course every semester, is called the 5,000 Ugandan shilling challenge. They have to form a team. They take 5,000 shillings, which is around $1.50, and they have to start a business until next week. And some of them come back with $50. Some of them come back with $10. Everyone starts something, however small it is, because it switches the mind from let me get started to let me get started, instead of only theorizing and writing business plans. We need the business plans, but we need to get out there, talk to our customers, evaluate our solutions. And this is more important in tech than anywhere else. Integrate alumni into entrepreneurship teaching and networks. So we really have to make an effort here, because the alumni body is often very happy to give back, and they are the ones to have experience and give back. And we have seen at universities, we wanted to tap into this alumni body, and often it was not even very well structured yet, and still in the build-up. So as long as there are great databases of who your alumni are, you can bring them back. You can have them benefit the current students. Then allow for a culture of open feedback and failures. As with all others, everyone needs to contribute here, but mainly academia and media. We need to make it possible for someone to start without fearing that they will be discredited if they fail. Failure is an important part of a journey. It doesn't mean complete failure. No one is striving for failure, but failure might happen. And sometimes it's wise to not keep working on an idea. So this feedback culture and failure cultures need to be nurtured. Social entrepreneurship and solving problems. We need to create content in the local languages to make it more accessible. This was a central narrative from the interviews, because it's often otherwise just not accessible to many people who are eager to learn and want to have access. We need to promote social entrepreneurship models, not only Silicon Valley style high growth tech entrepreneurship models. Because let's be honest, this can work, but in only few circumstances. There's so many facets to entrepreneurship, and especially to solve the problems in local communities, we need to promote social entrepreneurship. We need to promote the sustainable development goals also in the university setting. And students are excited about these things. Then the next one is to create summer schools, for example, also taking place in rural areas, to include them into the whole conversation and to be more inclusive. I think exclusivity, especially if we're talking about higher education, is always a key aspect that is perceived as a nice to have instead of a must have. So having inclusivity of rural communities and so on in our mind deliberately is very important. Last narrative, local structures. We need to integrate and showcase players, stakeholders, and offers along an entrepreneurial journey. So if students understand there are companies in the ecosystem and entrepreneurs who would be so willing to exchange with them and pass on experience and mentor, that is so crucial. So this integration of all the stakeholders, let's remember, it's an ecosystem that we need to foster entrepreneurship properly. This point is very crucial. Create and run a network that relies on local partners. We need the local partners on board. If you're a company very close to a university, start having these conversations, see what you can do, see how you can benefit from it as well, of course. Once you have that clear, there will be opportunities. It might not be easy in the beginning, but there are opportunities and lots of them. If you're the first ones to go for such partnerships, it will only benefit you in the long run. This is a lot of pace. 2 general recommendations beyond the narratives. And this, the first one, is good if it's happening even on an EAC-wide basis. And I think there's already plans from the side of Senate, which is doing amazing work again to make this happen. An online entrepreneurship help desk, where, for example, universities can find high-quality curricula, workshop and training templates, linkages to hubs. This is often not so much there, right? An entrepreneur in Nairobi, Kampala, Kigali, you name it, should know where they can go if they have a certain need. Profiles of mentors, investor databases, and so on. This knowledge often is available. The problem is it's not in one spot. And every student then needs to know how to get to the support desk and help themselves. The second one is creating a semester-wise evaluation system for entrepreneurship education in the EAC. And again, here, the public sector, the big players like the East African community, like IUCA, will be important here. I think ideas such as evaluating and just asking a few questions to each university every semester, such as companies have annual reports, might be amazing, even maybe every year to start with. If a university reports how many startups started at your university this year, this might be very, very inspiring data for other universities to keep pushing, follow examples, and then start exchanging on best practices, while we as well, of course, we focus on transparency and showcasing what is happening in our East African ecosystem. With this, I want to thank you for your attention. I speeded through. Again, I have the link to our assembly here for the recommendations. Very shortly, as we have a minute of time left, about Startup Africa, I first wanted to go into all of this. What are we doing beyond this study? We work with 10 universities in Uganda. We have semesterly entrepreneurship certificate courses, which are very actionable courses where students start businesses within 1 semester. As a second building block, we have an incubation program where we provide weekly and very deep guidance and the first investment to startups in Uganda. And the third part is that we do corporate innovation and consultancy, such as for studies in this case. So we help corporates, we've worked with Stanbic Bank, Total Energy, to build internal innovation structures, processes, systems, and do design thinking and other innovation trainings. Now, I think the floor is open for questions. And if you have further questions, feel free to always get in touch with me via my email address in the aftermath of this webinar. I think Simon for maybe the moderation of the questions, and then I'm happy to answer anything that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matthias. This was a very insightful, comprehensive presentation with a lot of, I think, food for discussion in our now up following panel discussion. Please, I would like to also point again to the chat room in MS Teams. I hope everyone can see it and can comment in the chat room. Questions will be taken up if time allows in the panel discussion. Otherwise, as mentioned earlier, any feedback and question you are providing in the chat room, we will take up and feed it into the discussion. You have the contact of Startup Africa, and we are also going to share our contacts later at the end of the meeting. Therefore, I am now, as we hear, the innovation is to be found at universities and students. I think this was very strongly emphasized. So at the industry-university collaboration is crucial for this digital innovation. And I'm very much looking forward what our panelists will say about that, and would therefore now hand over to Sophie, who will present our panelists and moderate the panel discussion. Thank you very much, and I wish you a fruitful panel discussion. Thank you again, Matthias.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you very much for the short introduction. Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm super happy to be today's moderator of this panel discussion. I also work with Startup Africa as the lead of innovation programs, and my expertise lays in design thinking. But let's come to the panel discussion, and thanks again to all of our panelists who have accepted our invitation to today's panel discussion. I'm very glad that you are here. We are now talking about the topic of how to generate value for businesses from digitalization, and also about the digital ecosystem in East Africa and how we can shape it together. So first of all, I would like to introduce our panelists one by one, and starting with Dr. Amos Nungu. He's the Director General of COSTECH. And my first question to you, Dr. Nungu, would be, is there a result from the presentation that particularly appealed to you?
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clearly.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, everything in the presentation resonates well with me, and I agree with everything they said in the presentation. But if I pick one thing, if you said so, then provide knowledge and the skills which the students lack most. Yeah, that is something which surely interests me, and definitely it is something which I have seen, and if I can expound on that one, we talk about innovation and entrepreneurship. Not necessarily the same thing, because you can find many innovations but are not entrepreneurial. So they think they have good ideas, but how to take them to the market, how to make a business out of them. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, training, proper skills are important. Thank you.
Thank you, really. Thank you very much. That was already really interesting. We are coming back to that later on. But let's go on to our the next panelist. That is the Professor Charles Martikumullay. Welcome to this panel discussion as well. He's from the University of Nairobi and the Deputy Director of the Graduate School. And Professor Mullay, what do you say after listening to Matthias' presentation? I would really like to know what was maybe something an outstanding result to you.
Maybe I can add something else there. I'm also from University of Nairobi. I'm also the other person for East African Business Council for private sector and academia. The person who goes between those two. Mine, as I looked at the presentation, I was very impressed by the findings that academia is really playing a very big role in this digital innovation. And that's the way to go. Most of the developed countries, there is a very strong collaboration between the academia, private sector or industry, and the government. So I'm very impressed. And they have actually identified the areas which need to be done. And I say that it is a very good way to approach it, this digital innovation. And as I've said, East African Business Council is part of East African Inter-University Council of East Africa, where some of the issues raised there, they can be articulated. So I'm really impressed by the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing. And yes, everyone, please feel free to add up on your to introduce yourself a bit more. Okay, let's go over to Martha Cherutu. She's the Deputy CEO of CAPSER. And Ms. Chirutu, what do you say regarding the presentation of Matthias, of the presentation? What was specifically surprising to you?
Thank you for the question and good afternoon, everyone. From our end, one, the presentation was really good because it gives us reflections on how prepared we are as a region for the fourth industrial revolution, which is basically, it's digitally led. And then from the talks that he mentioned, it was also surprising to note the percentages of those who feel from the company side and also from the industrial side, and the lecturers, whether they're prepared to develop the skills of the students. And also the third item that came up and we found again interesting is when they're talking about the women and what needs to be done for them to be to enhance the discussions on digital transformation and also entrepreneurship. And clearly what has come out is that role models is very important, and also information sharing, and looking and heavy collaboration between both the industry and the academia. And why I say that the collaboration is because one, as KEPSA, we are the private sector umbrella body for Kenya, and we are there to just bring businesses together to discuss in matters policy and working with government and other stakeholders to improve the business environment. And looking at the whole scenario where we are in, and thanks to COVID, we have to really leapfrog our discussions on digitalization. So the presentation has really been good, and I guess we'll continue sharing what else we have done to just support that conversation on digital transformation. Thank you.
Thank you too, already very insightful. We're going to hear more of Martha Chirutu later. Let's come to Dr. Daria Fidele. So he's the Vice Chancellor of the University of Technology and Arts of Byumba. And the same question goes out to you. What was very interesting about the presentation, about the results of that study for you?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So I would just thank the organizers of this webinar and the researchers who undertook this research, because the results of this research clearly show the way we need to go in order to sustain the digital transformation in East Africa. So I was mostly impressed, not with what came out as narratives, but with did not come out. So I was really impressed by the answer of the interviewees to the question as to which intervention is the most impactful. I expected to see that well-equipped laboratories is the way to go, as we are used to hear from regulators of higher education in different countries. But I was very surprised and delighted to see that most of the students didn't point to that intervention. This is a food for thought for us and for other regulators, because I don't really know why the well-equipped computers are not the way to go. Either is because the students have already access to devices, because that's the main reason universities were asked to equip their laboratories, or we have just realized that we are just spending most of the time in teaching basics in information technology, because the students who join the universities normally have a low level in ICT, and the whole 3-year period spent at university, they just is used to learn the basics, and they don't have much time to learn digital entrepreneurship. So I would like to thank the organizers again, and will send my questions to to the researchers, the principal researchers, because I have so many questions regarding the issues raised in these presentations, and hopefully the answer to those questions will show us clearly how to go and how to help our communities to use the benefits of this digital transformation, which is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you too. Sure, I think that is very possible to share the outcomes of the study. Okay, thank you for sharing. Next is Paul Isaac Musasisi he's the CEO at Cairo Motors Corporation. And Cairo is the result of government-university collaboration. And I'm very keen to hear from you what was the most surprising result for you in that study so far.
Okay, انت قاعد تشتغل. Okay. Okay. شكرا سان.
Okay, so Paul Isaac Musasisi, can you hear us? We would love to know what do you think about the results of the study and what was most surprising to you?
I'm unable to turn.
We can hear you, I guess.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Thank you for having me. Greetings to the organizers, the collaborating institutions, and sponsors, GIZ, and the government of Germany and the East African community as well for making this timely seminar a possibility, where the cornerstone is around the digital innovation ecosystem in the ESC, and emphasizing the synergies, the role of the synergies between the academia and industry towards commercialization of digitization initiatives. The study was a great eye-opening study on what exactly the ecosystem thinks about how digital innovation can be commercialized by the academia synergizing with industry. One of the things that stood out for me was the mindset change, which from my experience, I really see that's indeed a big issue. How do we empower the academics, the students, the scholars to think beyond being employees in an established firm, but being at the forefront of whatever comes in terms of the unknown when you try to commercialize innovations, especially in the digital space, but also working on the mindset of the target audience for the commercialization drive, so that they can believe in the capabilities and results of what is made here, because most of the time the idea is what is made of the African continent is of superior quality, but I believe that what we make here can serve the purpose. I think that's what stood out for me. I'm looking forward to the rest of the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing your perspective on that. I would like to go over to some other questions and again start with Dr. Nungu. Dr. Nungu, you said before that it stood out for you that there is like the provision of knowledge and skills. That's something the students like most, and also that there is a difference between innovation and entrepreneurship. So something which is innovative is not like a business yet. And I would like to know from your side, what programs of COSTECH have been successful in Tanzania, and what are your lessons learned that you would like to share with us at this point?
Thank you, Sophie. Yeah, so if I start where I left, or coming to the question, what are we doing in Tanzania? Yeah, at COSTECH, we kind of started with two products or projects. We have an innovation hub and an incubator. Both of them started roughly 2012, 2015. Yeah, the innovation hub will take the idea and provide support for the young innovators who had the ideas. After shaping the idea, and now the idea come into a minimum viable product, then they are being incubated. So that's why I say we have learned something that innovation and entrepreneurship, they're not necessarily the same. Even if today we are talking about how can we leverage the digitization. The second part, from my experience from last year, we started a national STI competition where altogether, now this time we don't only go for students or university graduates, but all walks of life, including grassroots innovators. Now, coming back to my experience, you find there are good innovators who have brilliant ideas, but some of them, they are good only for demonstrations. But what we learned, because the hubs which you have, they are providing soft skills to those entrepreneurs, to those youngsters, in order to realize, their ideas, their entrepreneurial journey. So some of them usually, they are tech guys, so they love technology, and then they love to stick around with the ideas, trying one idea after another. But those ideas, they are good at the first place, but they can be commercialized. Half of the time, yes, and half no. But on the other hand, also the tech guys, they're really tech. So they can't be managers or CEOs. Yeah, they are good being, chief technical officer or whatever. But since they are the owner of the ideas, sometimes they convincing them that, in order to succeed, you have to partner. You can't do the CEO, the accountant, the salesperson. So it takes time. I said, innovation, not necessarily to entrepreneurship. That's when I said that I loved where it was kind of, knowledge and the skills which the students lack. So if I continue, what we are doing in Tanzania is, as I mentioned, we have, back in 2015, there was only, I think, 2 innovation space and 1 incubator, ICT incubator. But things have changed now. So today we have more than 40 innovation spaces. And we can see their usefulness because, as I said, I would say most of the graduates, when they come out of the university, they have the basic skills, the basic technical skills, but they lack the other skills, including the soft skills. How to make a good presentation so that, to convince an investor or a partner. So that's where now the hubs come in addition to providing a co-working space, but also they supplement those soft skills. So that is very crucial. But also, as I said, the supplement, showing them, being alone with a good idea is good, but the funder wants sustainability. So they want a team. So these hubs also after imparting the skills, sometimes they manage to, to make team matching. Yes, you have an idea here, but it is good to work with someone else so that, you can complement each other. So that was what we have seen now. And as I said, yeah, there's a mushrooming of hubs, but they are not yet covered in the whole country. So we wish to see more hubs coming up, especially because hubs also, I wouldn't say demand driven, because in my interest, I would like to see every innovator being in the urban or rural should be assisted, should have equal opportunity. But the hubs are kind of mushrooming in the towns because of other easy access to resources. So you find in the rural area, we have to put extra effort to make sure that, also we improvise to provide that support as needed.
Thank you very much for pointing that out, that not only the idea is the most important thing, but also like the team constellation and how the team is working together, that it is like on a multidisciplinary team is very important to come up with good solutions, which also can create or can be a business. Thank you very much for pointing that out, Dr. Nungu. And now I also want to know from academia side. So Professor Mullay, how can, in your opinion, industry and academic work better together in promoting innovation, transfer from the university to the market, and young innovators at university? So how can that be possible?
Okay, thank you. This one is this where we need all the efforts, because you can have the innovations, but if they are not taken to the right place, they don't help anybody. One thing that can help is the collaboration between the academia and the private sector or the industry. At least the private sector will know what is happening in the universities, academia, because the universities will have they will have the hubs, they will have the innovation centers, but if the industry doesn't know what is happening, then the information cannot be transmitted to the industry. So that collaboration is very important, and this one maybe will be supported by the government. It needs government support, because with the government, it can assist in funding, can assist in legal framework, and also facilities. Someone talked about labs. Government can also help in creating those facilities. So that collaboration will be very important in transfer of these innovations to the industry. The other one, when they're working together, it will be very easy to organize for exhibitions where younger innovators will come and show their innovations. At least I've seen this one work in Nairobi, where we got the Nairobi Innovation Week, where all innovators, young innovators, they bring their innovations. And the industries, they are invited to come and see. Some of them even support the exhibitions to come. If they are interested, they will support a certain innovation to develop it to commercialization. So I think if it can be assist the funding, both from government and for the industry, and have more exhibitions involving all the universities. Like as I said in Nairobi, these exhibitions involve all the universities in Kenya. Anybody with an innovation brings it to come and exhibit, and people are invited all over. We get people from outside the country to come and at least encourage the innovators, what we are calling role models. So that's one way. The other way is to make sure that the industry also, their own problems, they can solve it together with the academia. If their problem is solved, then transfer will be easy. So that working together and industry going to the universities. Sometimes we say universities produce the seeds, but you see they cannot go and sow the seeds. The seeds have to be sown by the industry. So those are a few thoughts of mine. Now the industry can acquire more innovations from the academia. They have their can in these young innovators, or when we are having our curricula, things they will suggest can be put in the curricula to enable students to acquire the necessary skills. That way they will feel that they are part of it and the transfer will be very easy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Then I will just go over to Martha Chirutu. You also talked about the importance of collaboration before and about role models as well. So I would really like to know from you, what does the industry now need from universities to digitize and marketize new digital products and services? Like, how do you assess the current industry-academia collaboration?
Okay, thank you. And it's actually insightful to hear from the academia, now from the private sector, from the industry perspective, and reflecting on the presentation where about 84%, if I'm not wrong, of companies said that that all relevant skills cannot be obtained from the universities. And then clearly it gives us that opportunity to work together. And one thing that you would need from the universities is, let's have a discussion, because for you to commercialize any innovation or any projects that they have, then the industry has to be aware. So that would call for information sharing system between ourselves and the academia, where we can listen to each other and know what is coming in. And then the other one, if I can just remember part of the statistics, we noted that at least 58% have the opinion that universities cannot guide students towards viable digital models. So when you reflect on that statement, then it continues to really ask for regular engagements and even asking universities to look at the future demands so that their training relates to the future of this country or the future of the world, because we're moving into global. Actually, we are in a global village. So everything that we look at, the resources we have in one country in Kenya can always be used in another country. So those are the two angles that I would look at. The two collaborations first, just information system sharing, and then regular engagements within this too. But then now on the second part where you're asking whether when we assess the collaboration that exists, I can actually confirm yes, through the KEPSA system is that we engage the universities, and we have as education sector board, because being an advocacy organization is that we do our discussions through the sector boards, and universities fall in that sector board. So we have collaborations with the tertiary institutions, and we have regular engagements. I can just highlight, and I'm happy, okay, we have here already Nairobi University, but we've also engaged the Strathmore University, and we have this ones like linking the industry with academia, LIWA. Those are the national conferences that we have. We've also engaged others on the agricultural transformation, and that is with the, it's called Egerton University. The other university that we've also worked on, because we're looking at SMEs, and that is another focus for the country, is that we developed the policy index, SME policy index, with the Management University of Africa. And this is to show you that that collaboration exists, but I always feel we can do better. And the other item that I can touch on the same is that as a country, we have the digital economy blueprint, and that one sets the pace for everyone. And we thought the thinking around it is Kenya can actually work with other countries and use that to support and provide a framework on how to go to the digital transformation world. So if we implement that together, looking at the there are 5 pillars around it, and allow me just to mention to show you what we can all do together. The 5 pillars is that, one, we have the digital government, and that is all about having government go the digital way. We have the digital business, where the industry comes in. We're looking at the infrastructure, so provision of the infrastructure to enable all these discussions happen. And we've seen it was important, particularly this time, where we're working from home or people are learning virtually. The other thing is the innovation-driven entrepreneurship. And it was mentioned by one of the panelists how we need to change the mindset and move us towards that direction, adoption of technology around it. And finally is now the digital skills and values, and that would be very keen in terms of having the industry and the academia working closely to it So the thing that we can say we have come into step, and we have some projects, and one of them is the Algeria Digital Project that we're working with government, and it is purely to move people and especially the youth towards digitalization and digital jobs, providing some hubs. Like under the project, we have constituencies which have innovation hubs under the Algeria project, and they are fully equipped. So people can get in, you can go and learn, you can go and do your online jobs, and purely is just to move the entire citizenry towards the digital discussion. So we can do better, we can engage more with industry on research, on the training, and even curricular development, so that whatever is being taught is current for today and for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing. Very insightful as well. Also very interesting to hear your perspective from the private sector. Let's now go over to Dr. Fidele. So Dr. Fidele, you first said like that the research which was just presented showed like the way to go, and I would like, or we would like to know right now, what do you expect from a successful cooperation with the economy when it comes to bundling the innovation potential of science and economy?
Yeah, I said yes, the results of this study show the way to go. And my expectations from a successful linkage between the innovation potential of the science and the economy would be that companies and institutions are able to understand clearly their problems, and they are ready to commission research and development studies designed to improve their businesses. That would be very helpful. And also there is an issue that we need to sort out regarding the startups at university levels, because most of the startups, depending on the countries, are crushed down by the burden of legislation of business companies, and they start up but they die at the beginning. So this is an issue regarding the regulation of startups at university level that has to be sorted out. So another issue I think that has to be considered is to make sure that the business community and the academia have a forum where they meet regularly, an informal forum where they meet regularly and can discuss the different topics, and that way they come to know each other, they come to know the potentialities of each other, and this will be helpful for the academia and it will be helpful for the business community. So that's what the three issues that I expect from a successful linkages between academia and business community.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing. That again was super interesting to see like those 3 points you pointed out. I already can see some similarities to what the other panelists said. Let me come to Paul Isaac Musasisi. You said that for you, like in the results, really shown that mindset change is needed. So you were raising the question in the beginning, how can we empower the students to see entrepreneurship as like a career path? So that is really interesting. So could you maybe tell us about the innovation process, like the leading to the spin-off of Kyra Motors? How
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Sophie, for that introduction. When I look back to where we started from as a teacher, at the time I was an assistant lecturer in the School of Engineering, Makerere University, one of the things we kept toying around with was how can our product be more relevant to the market, in the marketplace. Many times as an engineering school, we were challenged that our engineers second class to the technicians who came out of vocational schools, because the technician and the other artisans, the crafts people could do something. They could do masonry, they could do bicycle repair, and some of those things, plumbing, which are pretty much relevant to the common person here. While our engineers, in most of the case, were participating mainly in the tertiary tiers of engineering, focusing on maintenance planning, not doing maintenance, but the maintenance planning, a little bit of design here and there, and that did not seem to be quite attractive. So we had an opportunity to be working on a collaborative project with 3 other universities in Africa, but with technology from Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the United States. The African universities were Makerere University, Obafemi Awolowo in Nigeria, as well as the University of Dar es Salaam, and this was around the internet laboratories. And during that exchange, it became apparent that students at MIT were looking for partners across the world to work on a collaborative initiative aimed at designing and bringing to market a passenger plug-in electric hybrid vehicle targeting the Indian markets. And that's how the idea gets born, and the Makerere team is put together. And by the summer of 2008, build event is and we have our team participating now. During that participation, it was clear that our students at the university perhaps were more capable than what we were putting them to task to do. I recall one of the students became the lead welder during the event. So getting back home, we put together now a formalized program, which was not an extracurricular activity, focusing on how we could leverage those experiences to drive innovation and research as a mainstream university program, which would provide scholars at Makerere with constructive opportunities to build skills in automotive engineering, the automotive development process, but also get busy with the actual aspects of building control systems, fabricating body components, and also putting together a full vehicle. And as that was working around, again, we had an opportunity to interact with government through the highest office in the land. And it was clear that Uganda was looking at Vision 2040 becoming an upper middle income economy, and science, technology, and innovation had been identified as key enablers of industrialization. And that's how we are requested to put together a fundable program as the university, which would facilitate, which will be facilitated by government. So the vehicle project was one of those. The Kira vehicle project was one of those which got picked and received funding from the Presidential Initiative for Science, Technology, and Innovation. And in 2011, we were able to put on, to unveil Kira EV. And our story was never the same. We have seen ourselves continuing to work with government to transition from what was an academic program under research and innovation at the university for training purposes, and today where we see a national program for building the indigenous motor vehicle industry. And 5 things have been very important in this. One is a very clear problem that you have to solve. There should be a problem which will attract the right stakeholders to add value, because you can't do it alone. So what problem are you solving? How does it relate to the wider stakeholder community? Our case was a bit more clear because the import bill is very high on motor vehicle, being the second in our country and also very high within the sub-Saharan Africa. So government saw this as an area of public interest to see how we can not only do import substitution, but also push for supply chain localization. But also the aspect of developing the right skills is very important. The policy, very important, production facility, and for the electric vehicles, also the mobility infrastructure key for ensuring that they go out there. However, as we also innovate, because innovation is not necessarily invention can happen while you're in the current generation. Innovation may be at many times incremental. It's important to identify the across and leverage technology, especially digitization or digital technologies, to see how you can leapfrog the innovation process. So for us, that has been very important to realize that you do not want to start with everything on a clean slate. If you're developing a passenger experience system, for example, it will be critical that you identify the hardware technology that can enable you to focus on the experience features that you want to put in place. And that draws us in the appreciation of the role of the global value chains and how they can facilitate and influence fast-tracking the innovation process in the context of Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. So now hearing that specific example from Kira Motors, which is very, very exciting to listen to the story, there's I would like to do a final statement round with all of you, very short. Could you explain or could you answer that question? What role can Senate now play in this, in all of that? And where can you imagine yourself as a possible supporter or an expert to contribute? Start again, Paul, Isaac, if you want to start on that question, it would be great.
Thank you, Sophie. Senate is a very important resource in the digital innovation ecosystem. And I see 3 very important roles that Senate can play, and perhaps is already playing. For example, we already have a partnership with Senate looking at so many aspects in the mobility space on the digital arena. One of the things that Senate would do and is doing through the program you're running on mobile and embedded systems technology or engineering is the human capital development. We need to develop the human capital, which is critical for the realization of a sustainable digital innovation ecosystem. And that you're already doing, and you're doing it very well, providing opportunities as well as scholarships for people within East Africa to participate. That should continue. The second aspect is organizing platforms of this nature where we convene and share experiences, but also on top of these conferences, hackathons, and some of those constructive events where people can get to do some hands-on work with the technologies and with the innovation. But also we do believe that Senate has a very special role drawing from your stakeholder environment in driving policy around digital innovation and the ecosystem thereof. And I look forward to the opportunity to see how discussions and seminars like this and other initiatives can consolidate and inform digital innovation ecosystem policy that will aid commercialization in a sustainable way. I thank you very much.
Thank you for answering that last, or giving that last statement. Yes, I also would like to know from Dr. Fidela, what do you see? Where do you see Senate play a role in this, and where can you imagine yourself as a possible expert to contribute? Dr. Fidela, are you there?
Sophie, in the chat, Dr. Fidela was actually apologizing. He had to leave. I'm
sorry.
not sure if maybe Dr. Lucien, who's also here from UTEP, could step in for his Vice Chancellor your question.
That would be awesome. I can also repeat that question again, just in case. So the question was, what role can Senate play in this, and where can you imagine yourself, or like the University of Technology and Arts of Bumber, be supporter or expert to contribute?
Dr. Lucien, could you maybe respond to this question for the Vice Chancellor who had to leave already?
Because I have the cutting of connectivity, maybe you can repeat the question?
Yes, of course, for sure. So the question after that all, what role can Senate play when it comes to digital innovation and entrepreneurship? And where can you imagine yourself, or like the University of Technology and Arts of Bumber, as a possible supporter or expert to contribute?
Okay, thank you very much. I think, first of all, you have to identify the challenges we are having, because I see that in East Africa, we have so many challenges related to the digitalization, entrepreneurship, and so on. The first step, it is to identify challenges, weaknesses, and how to overcome, what to do, and then to see what should be the tools on the level of ICT, maybe the tools which can be used, the tools which can correspond very well to the reality of East Africa, because the reality of East Africa is not the reality of Europe, it's not the reality of America. You have another reality, you have another mindset. And the mindset to change the mindset, you see, we have also to make a social science survey, a social science survey, because it is a holistic activity in order to improve of East Africa in the side of digitalization.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if I have explained very well.
Thank you. Where can you see yourself or the University of Technology and Arts of Bumber contribute here?
Okay, if I repeat very well, I think we can contribute in this survey, first of all, in this survey, and to see what do we have in universities in East Africa, what don't we have, what do we need, how the mindset can be changed. You see, it is not only the University of Technology which can play this role. Even other universities in Rwanda, not the mindset. Rwanda is not the mindset in Tanzania, in Burundi. So I think that we have to make a deep study which can help us to make the steps which we are sure that we achieve the good objective.
Thank you. Thank you very much for
welcome
pointing that out. Also, Martha Chiruto, could I ask you for your final statement on what role can Senate play, and where do you see CAPSA be a possible supporter and expert?
Okay, great. It's been an interesting discussion. And to confirm, one is that we are members, we are in the steering committee of Senate. So that is one contribution that we feel as CAPSA, because we know Senate just provides, it's a very good platform to do the regional linkages and also collaborations. And therefore, that's one thing that we feel it's very good, and it's already doing it. But as we always say, we can always look for more interactions together. From our side as CAPSA, what we look at in the whole scenario and looking at the challenges that are there within this space, then is to fill in that gap. One of them is that we'll continue with supporting the advocacy agenda, the way we supported development of the digital economy blueprint. We have a strategy that has been done. We're looking at regulations coming in terms of digital services. We look at taxes, but it's continuing to provide that advocacy platform for all the private sector, and continuing with the linkages, and also looking at the strengths of each sector, who is strong in a certain sector that we need to link them with the industry and also with the academia. Looking at training and mentorship also is something else that we believe is very critical, looking at the skills for transformation. Then we can provide the platform, link with the industries, and also provide mentorship professionals to come in and talk about it. And also, again, for people to adopt and to really appreciate this commercialization and digital transformation. One of the items we've noticed is in terms of provision of finances. So what we're also doing as CAPSA to support is that we are linking with different partners who have provided loans and that can be accessed by women-led organizations, youth-led organizations, and even just general SMEs, where they can come in, their loan is interest-free, and they can access that funding. E-commerce, we want to show people that this is actually working. So we also have projects on e-commerce just to boost most of the private sector businesses towards that direction. So that is our commitment, and we want to really appreciate what we have done together so far, and we look forward to working together with everyone. So thank you very much, and back to you.
Thank you. Thank you for this final statement. Over to Professor Mullay. Also, the question goes out to you. I would like to know your final statement. What role can Senate play in this, and where do you see, maybe the role of academia or yourself right now as a possible supporter? Professor Mullay, is he still with us?
Sorry, I was mute.
No worries, we can hear you now.
Okay, what I can say is the study which was undertaken, which was discussed, it identified some gaps. And those gaps need to be filled. And I think GET can help in filling those gaps. And these gaps, when you look at the study, those gaps were mainly in the curriculum and the skills the students are getting. So it can assist in that respect in curriculum development, and then in starting or incorporating those skills which are required by the students, which I think is possible. I've seen other people do the same. If there are gaps which need to be addressed in the curricula, they come in and the gaps are addressed. Somebody, something which goes on around code 1 health. I don't know whether you have heard it. Now that idea has been brought to the universities and incorporating it in our curriculum. The other one is when there are the issues of animal welfare, the issues were also, the gaps were identified, that was brought to the universities and it was incorporated, and now it is applied across the board. So GET can come in curricula which actually formed most of the presentation. Thank you very much, Sophie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mullay. Okay, last but not least, we come to Dr. Nungu, and again, the same question is for you. What role can Senate play in like this discussion, and where do you see yourself supporting?
Yeah, a lot have been discussed, and I think already Senate are playing their role. I mean, as it is, the government usually is supposed to create a conducive environment, which I think all the governments in the East African, they are doing that. And that's why today we have the Senate already working in East Africa. But once there is the conducive environment, then now we need to provide the other supporting, including infrastructure, funding, and other things. So CENIC, the center is now, I mean, as already said, are doing that one. So my wish is for them to expand what they are doing. I mean, facilitating the access to skills, access to the experts. Yeah, so that, I mean, we can expand what they're doing in order to, I mean, to increase the impact. And I think the government working along with them to make sure that it is happening. Thank you.
Thank you too, and thanks to all the panelists. It has been a fruitful discussion, I feel like, and thank you also, for sharing your insights, for sharing your perspectives on the questions I just asked. So let me wrap up the whole discussion a bit, and yes, if there's something I will forget, please feel free to add in the end. So thank you for contributing. And I heard that in the whole discussion, it is the most important thing is about listen to each other and understand each other's perspectives. So the perspective from academia, the private sector, but also the governmental perspective, to see how we can join forces and how we can collaborate together to really create joint action. Also, when it comes to creating more hubs within the countries within East Africa, it is also about enabling and showing that the career path of that entrepreneurship is one path to young students who have the potential to be innovators. And also that the question raised there is that the innovations are not per se also like businesses or can be commercialized, but it needs like really skills and trainings for that one to like make it out of business, out of an innovation. And therefore we need trained people and also the capacities to people to be trained and students. And also we need, again, what's the most important thing? A joint action here. Thank you for all of that. I appreciate the contribution of all of you to the panel discussion. Is there anything you want to add in the very end I did not mention here? This goes out to the panelists. Okay. Thank you very much. Again, I take silence as a no, and yes, over to the moderator. Simon.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sophie, for the great moderation. And thank you very much to the distinguished panelists for a very rich, insightful and discussion that gave us a lot of new insights on also the consultants to the finalization of the study, but also already for our project. So we have taken note of your comments, and also thank you very much to the participants for your comments and questions in the chat room, as well as on the Ysembly online tool. We unfortunately did not have time to get to all of these questions during this meeting. We are already 15 minutes over meeting time. Thank you for staying on anyway, but we are having those noted down, we are going to get back to you if you provided your contact information. And please also, our information is shared in the chat. Reach out to us if you want to get in touch with Senate or with the consultant Startup Africa, with EABC, whoever you would like to reach out to. And yes, I think this would be, and wait, look up for the next webinars coming, because this was a short time. A lot of things have been mentioned. So we think and we see a lot of more need for discussion that we are going to facilitate, for instance, through more webinars, but also other activities that were now suggested by the panelists. So I would like to invite now for final words the East African Business Council for a vote of thanks and thank you note by Geoffrey. I assume again, or has Peter now joined the CEO of the meeting? Is there from the East African Business?
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Sophie, and thank you, dear panelists and participants. As one of the panelists mentioned, this is just an eye-opener, and I was touched by the statistics that I personally saw, which shows the gap between the skills produced and the effects the skills have, whether they're really relevant or they're not. Just to note that we cannot do it without getting digitalized. The East African community is the most integrated REC, so we cannot be left out by this life enhancement initiative, which is digitalization. So we commend the Senate and GIZ for the effort they are putting in this. They have really enthusiastically put a lot of effort to ensure that our region is digitalized, and we really commend you, and we don't take your support for granted. I also thank the panelists from their respective jurisdictions, all the efforts that you put in making sure that innovations roll across our region. We can only say we keep it up. Let's keep the digital space open for our economy, because the only enabler that we have that will make the private, most especially the private sector, become the engine of the integration of East Africa. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for making time and keeping on the call till this time. On behalf of the Executive Director, Dr. Peter Mathuki, I wish you all a very fruitful evening and keep safe during these COVID times. Thank you so much. Back to you, Simon.
Thank you very much. And with these very kind words, I would like to close this meeting. If you want to receive further information or the study, please post your email address in the chat or write it to us bilaterally. Happy to share the presentation as well as the study and engage with you further. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for listening in, contributing, and joining this meeting. See you soon again. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye to everyone.
Now
Thank you.